I was looking at a map of Iran the other day and it just hit me how much of a miracle it is that this place actually exists as a single country. You zoom in, it's not just one thing. It's this incredible dense mosaic of people who speak different languages, wear different clothes, and have completely different stories about where they came from. You've got Azeris in the northwest, Kurds along the Zagros, and Baluch in the southeast, Arabs in the south, Turkmens in the north. It goes on. And I started wondering, how? How did one piece of land end up holding so many different worlds? It's actually written into very dirt and the mountains of this place. If you want to understand why Iran is so diverse, you have to look at the Zagros and the Alborz mountains. They aren't just pretty scenery, there are giant stone walls. Thousands of years ago, if you were a group of people settling in a valley in the Zagros, those peaks isolated you. You could live there for centuries, developing your own dialect, your own music, and your own ways of life, almost entirely protected from whatever was happening in the next valley over. The geography acted like a giant filing cabinet, keeping different cultures in their own separate drawers. It allowed groups like Lurs and the Kurds to maintain an identity that is incredibly old and distinct, because mountains made it hard for any single empire to just come over and flatten everyone into a same culture. But then, you have the other side of the coin. While the mountains were keeping people apart, the location of Iran was pulling the whole world in. Think about where Iran sits. It's the ultimate bridge. It's the piece of land you had to cross if you wanted to get from China or India to Rome and Greece. This was the heart of the Silk Road. For thousands of years, Iran was basically the world's busiest hallway. You had merchants, soldiers, and travelers constantly moving through. Some of them stayed, some of them traded ideas, married into local families, or left behind the small communities that grew over generations. When you walk through a bazaar in Tabriz or Isfahan, you're basically walking through a place that has been absorbing the world's DNA for as long as the history has been recorded. And then there are the empires. Iran didn't just sit there. It was the center of some of the biggest empires human beings have ever built. Think about the Achaemenids, like the Cyrus the Great. His whole philosophy was different from a lot of other ancient conquerors. He didn't try to force everyone to become Persian. He kind of let people keep their own gods and their own languages as long as they paid taxes and kept the peace. That set a precedent. It created a big tent culture where being an Iranian wasn't about being one specific ethnicity. It was about being part of this massive multi-ethnic system. That DNA of tolerance, or at least coexistence, meant that these groups didn't disappear. They were woven into the fabric of the estate. But it wasn't always peaceful. Iran's history is also a history of being at the crossroad of massive migrations and, frankly, violent invasions. You had the Greeks with the Alexander, the Arabs bringing in a new religion and a language, the Mongols coming across the steppes, and the Turkic tribes moving in from Central Asia. Every one of those waves left a layer of sediment. For example, the reason there is such a massive Turkic-speaking population in Iran today, like the Azeris and the Qashqai's, is because of those centuries where Central Asian tribes move onto the Iranian plateau, sometimes as conquerors, sometimes as nomads looking for pasture. They became part of the land. They brought their own rugs, their poetry, their tea culture, and it all melted into what we now call Iran. It's strange to think about, but even the harshness of the landscape played a role. Iran has these massive unforgiving deserts in the middle, the Dasht-e-Kavir and the Dasht-e-Lu. These are in places where you can easily build big connected cities. So life clustered around the edges and the foothills where there was water. This created these islands of civilization. Each island, whether it's lush green forests of Gilan by the Caspian Sea or the sun-baked coasts of Hormozgan, developed its own flavor. The people in Gilan, the Gilakis and Mazandaranis, have a culture that feels almost Mediterranean because of rain and the sea. Meanwhile, the people in the south have been trading with Africa and India for so long that their music and their food have these beautiful, soulful rhythms that you won't find in north. I often think about the nomads too. We don't talk about them enough. For most of the history, a huge chunk of Iran's population didn't live in houses. They moved with the seasons. The Bakhtiari or the Qashqai would move their entire lives. Thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of animals, up to the mountains for the summer and down to the plains for the winter. This movement kept the country connected, but it also kept these groups fearlessly independent. They had their own laws, their own kings, and their own languages. They were like moving nations within a nation. When you put all of this together, the mountain walls, the Silk Road traffic, the imperial big tent, the waves of migration, the nomadic dramatic heart, you realize that Iran's diversity isn't a bug. It's the main feature. It's what makes the culture so deep. It's why the food changes every 100 miles. Why the music shifts from haunting mountain pipes to rhythmic southern drums, and why the faces you see look like they could be from anywhere between Europe and Asia. It's not always easy, of course. Having that many different identities into one border comes with tensions and complexity. But there is also this incredible resilience in it. These groups have lived side by side for longer than most modern countries have ever existed. They've shared the same droughts, the same wars, and the same celebrations. There is a shared Iranianness that sits on the top of these ethnic identities, like a roof covering a house with many different rooms. You can be a proud Azeri and a proud Iranian. You can be a Baluchi and still feel that deep connection to the poetry of Hafez or the stories of Shahnameh. I think there is a lesson in that, honestly. In a world that often wants to simplify everyone into us versus them or make everyone the same, Iran is a reminder that you can be 1,000 different things and still be one. A messy, beautiful, complicated family that's been sitting around the same table for 3,000 years. When I talk to my friends from different parts of the country, I'm always struck by how much they love their specific corner, their specific dialect, or their grandmother's specific recipe, but also how much they feel part of the larger story. It's like a Persian rock. If it were just one color, it wouldn't be nearly as valuable. It's the fact that they have all these different threads, some silk, some gold, some bright red, some deep blue, all knotted together so tightly that you can't pull them apart without destroying the whole thing. That's the strength of it. Anyway, I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I kind of feel like that we're losing that sense of nuance sometimes. We look at a country on a map and we see a monolith, but there is so much more beneath the surface. I hope this gives you a bit of different perspective the next time you hear about Iran. It's not just a place on the news. It's this ancient living experiment on how humans from all over the world can end up calling the same mountains home. If you found this video interesting, maybe stick around. I'm trying to dig deeper into these kind of stories. The ones that don't always make it into the textbooks but are written in the landscape and the people themselves. There is so much more to uncover about how history actually feels when you're living in it. I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Do you come from a place with a similar mosaic history, or is there a specific part of Iranian culture that always fascinated you? Let's talk about it in the comments. It's through these conversations that we can actually start to see the world for what it is. A lot more connected than we think. Thank you for sitting with me and listening to these reflections. It means a lot. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you in the next one. Maybe we'll look at the water next time, the qanats and the desert, because that's a whole other kind of magic. But for now, just think about those mountains and the stories they have been keeping safe for all this time. If you haven't yet, maybe subscribe and join this little community here. We're just trying to understand the world a bit better, one story at a time. I'll see you soon.